What's going on, guys? K-Pine here and welcome back. And in this video, I'll be featuring what's a very strong strategy this season that has also produced me good results. That being double Mud Slap. With its recent buff to both energy and damage, it's arguably the best fast move in the game now. So what's a better strategy than to run an ABB Mud Slap line? You already know Shadow Walrein on the lead, Shadow Golurk on the safe swap running Dynamic Punch so you can hit opposing Mana Buzz that might counter swap into it, and Gastrodon as the closer. While Shadow Golurk is really fun to run, if you are to run this team, then I feel like Shadow Kanto Marowak is just better because it has similar coverage, but that bulk will help out a lot more than the damage output of Golurk. And if you want to disappoint me, then you can run another ice type on the lead like Dugong or Shadow Alolan Sandslash on Powder Snow. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Shadow Walrein into a Shadow Rhyperior. I guess they really are just making anything meta that has Mud Slap. And speaking of meta, this is the epitome of meta this season in Shadow Feraligatr. I don't have a good answer for it, so I am going to chip it with an Icicle Spear and then swap it in my Gastrodon. This way I will be able to force switch advantage. I don't necessarily need switch advantage, but I would rather maintain switch advantage just because of how dominating of a matchup the Shadow Walrein has there. So I will take a Hydro Cannon, shield one, farm all the way down. They can't really bring in that Rhyperior, otherwise they would have to give up a shield to that Earth Power, as well as take the super effective Mud Slap. So they bring in their third Pokemon, which is a Dunsparce. First Earth Power does land. Second Earth Power, we are able to reach it before we get knocked out by the rollouts. Does force their shield. I do get a rollout down, and from here I can bring in my Golurk, and this should be fine. But I get denied my Mud Slap there, and getting denied that Mud Slap is huge because of how healthy this Dunsparce is. Normally, I would let go this second Joel run, but because I didn't get that Mud Slap through, I now have to give up my shield, because if I bring in my Walrein, I can't Powder Snow it down. If I got that Mud Slap through, I would be able to Powder Snow their Dunsparce now, but I give up that shield, puts me in a very tough situation. Fortunately, the Rhydon doesn't build up to a Stone Edge. Looks like they're on like Breaking Swipe and Surf or something like that, or they were just worried they wouldn't get to the Stone Edge, so they're only able to land that Surf. And fortunately, we are going to be able to take this game regardless, as we have the Shadow Punch, which just does enough to take out the Dunsparce, and that is a good game. GG's. Next battle, we lead Shadow Walrein into Malamar. A little bit of a tricky lead, since Malamar does have access to Superpower, which would just basically one-shot the Shadow Walrein. It looks like they're going to go for Superpower right away and dip. What I like to do in the lead scenario is I don't want to throw my move first. I want to wait until they throw their move first. They'll get to the back-to-back Superpowers once you get to the back-to-back Icicle Spears. So if they get to that point, then you kind of just try and play to that CMP tie of when they get to the back-to-back, as that's, most likely when they will throw it. But you always want to make sure they throw first in that situation, so it doesn't allow them to no-shield an Icicle Spear, where if they go for that Superpower, they're forced to swap out or forced to burn shields against your Icicle Spears or lose their entire Malamar. They bring back in their Malamar to get a farm down. We are able to get a shield with that Shadow Punch, and then we fire off an Icicle Spear right away, knowing that they're not quite at a Superpower yet, but now they are. So I will give up another shield to that Superpower, and I will get the farm down of that Malamar, so they swap into a Carbink, and it's just gonna be game over. This is why during this season, Pokemon like Carbink and Bastiodon have fallen off extremely, is because of all the Mud Slappers that just tear right through them, and my opponent concedes once it sees the Gastrodon. GG's. Next battle, against a Chesnaught. Now, Chesnaught does typically run Frenzy Plant Superpower, but it could also be on Superpower Thunder Punch, or even Frenzy Plant Thunder Punch for that matter. Now, this one goes for Frenzy, so it looks like they are on Frenzy Superpower and didn't want to debuff themselves yet. And there I overfarmed. I didn't want to wait a turn, and I didn't want to throw right away, because if I throw right away, then they could catch. And if I wait a turn in that situation, they go for a Superpower, then I'm just losing out on an entire Powder Snow's worth of damage energy. So I let them throw first, knowing that, hey, they're most likely going to shield in return, which they do. So then I could just fire off my next Icicle Spear to force their second shield, Then I can let their move go and get a very nice mud slap down with the Shadow Golurk, of which they bring in a Drapion. Here, this won't quite KO, but I have to throw it right away and then dip into my Gastrodon because they are at an Aqua Tail, which would just one-shot the Shadow Golurk. So I do catch the Aqua Tail, get a nice little mud slap down of the Drapion, and now we get to see what they have in back, which is a Dugong, and this game should just be over. Because I can load up on energy, fire off this Earth Power. Earth Power will do some nice damage to the Dugong. It is a CMP tie. And here, you're going to see me, I just let my Gastrodon get taken out because I didn't want to risk going for a Body Slam here and then the Body Slam not KOing and then the Dugong getting an Ice Shard down and then being able to icy with my Golurk. By committing to that Earth Power there, I either guaranteed took out the Dugong and won the game, or forced them to waste energy, in which I would still be able to win the game. And that's exactly what happened. GG's. Next battle, Walrein into Gastrodon. So we're gonna fire off an Icicle Spear after 7 Powder Snows. Want to make sure it's after 7, as would be on good timing. But my opponent here throws their Body Slam as soon as they get it, which is a little interesting of a play because, you know, it's on alignment, giving me a free Powder Snow. And that's kind of nice because now I can go for 1 and then the move. And I'm expecting them to throw an alignment again. So I overfarm to that alignment, swap into my Shadow Golurk and catch the Body Slam. That's a very nice catch as it wastes quite a decent amount of energy from their Gastrodon. They bring in a Dugong, and oh boy, does the Dugong know I'm running Dynamic Punch. If they don't, this will easily one-shot the Dugong. They do, and now they're unfortunately going to be able to get an Ice Shard down. I mean, it's kind of a 50-50 call there, right? They're already down a shield. You're not necessarily expecting them to give up their second shield, so you full send it, but they end up shielding, so it would have been nice being able to get off a little bit of guaranteed Shadow Punch damage. Unfortunately, we made the wrong call in that situation, but it's all right because guaranteeing that final shield from the opponent does work too. And now from here, I'm just going to go for a Mud Slap down worth of energy. Can't quite get it. So we do fire off this Body Slam on the CMP tied to their next move. This will take out the Dugong. And here I want to reset my debuff, so I will swap into the Walrein. They come in with Gastrodon, then swap into their own Walrein, another trainer of culture. So we do land that Earthquake, and from here with a 1 shield advantage, we can close out this match with our Gastrodon. We let their Icicle Spear go, it does KO, and now I can just go for 3 Mud Slaps and then the Body Slam. This will just be enough to take out the Walrein, which it is. Down goes the Walrein, and now we can get to an Earth Power, which should take out their Gastrodon, and if it doesn't, 1 more Mud Slap will finish the job. Down goes Gastrodon, and that's a good game. GG's. Next battle, we lead Shadow Walrein into Clodsire. Fantastic lead for the Shadow Walrein. And this is one matchup where it's actually better to have the regular Walrein instead of the Shadow. Just because of, since the buff to Poison Sting, that it does more damage now. The Poison Sting damage plus the Stone Edge damage kind of threatens a Poison Sting farm down once a Stone Edge is able to land. So, you know, that's kind of one little bit of trade-off for having the Shadow there, but I do think that the Shadow is substantially better in GBL with that extra Powder Stone damage and Icicle Spear damage and pressure it provides. However, in Show 6 formats for this season in this specific meta, there's an argument there for the regular because of that Clodsire matchup, as Clodsire will be everywhere, as well as it's a little bit more flexibility to jump around with. And like I said, not being threatened from a Stone Edge knockout because of that extra damage it takes of being a Shadow. But in this matchup, they come in with a Mana Buzz, and we're now stuck between a rock and a hard place. I overfarm here, try to play the CMP tied to the next Dark Pulse, not realizing an Aerial Ace is enough to KO, but of course it's enough. It's a Shadow Golurk, and we just concede the match as we don't have any win condition left. GG's. Next battle, Shadow Walrein into Walrein, and yet another trainer of culture, as we will build up to that Earthquake. We overfarm here just in case they try and go for a catch, and we will give up a shield as it's extremely unlikely they're going to bait the Icicle Spear since it is double resisted. And if you get a bait call wrong in the Walrein mirror, you're basically just going to straight up lose that mirror match just because of how polarizing it is to get that call wrong. Now we go for an Earthquake, and my opponent does end up making the catch after all, as we get the shield for the first one and then fire off the second one right away. So they do make a nice catch there. But what it allows us to do is it allows us to bank a ton of energy onto our Walrein and then come in with our Gastrodon. We do tank a Hydro Pump, and now we're going to fire off the Earth Power. And what would be the CMP tied to their Ice Beam in case they are one of those trainers running the Ice Beam Hydro Pump combination, but they overfarm, so it looks like they were on play rough. As down goes the Azu. Fortunately, we would have still been able to reach an Earth Power, forcing them to dump energy to deny us our energy. So now we can just bring in our Walrein, fire off this Earthquake with all this energy we have stored. Down goes their Walrein, and in comes a Clodsire. And this game is most definitely over at this point, as not only do we have the Walrein with all this energy, we have our Golurk in the bag. So we will be able to land that first Icicle Spear, load up on energy, and I make a little bit of an unnecessary cheeky catch of the Stone Edge onto the Golurk. If we can, why not do it? And at that moment, my opponent concedes. GG's. Next battle, we lead Shadow Walrein into Shadow Mahcamp. Terrible lead. Good news is Shadow Mahcamp is now running Karate Chop and not counter, so it does not have fast move pressure, as Karate Chop is energy focused, not damage focused. So if Walrein at some point does end up back on the Mahcamp, it's not that bad of a matchup, just because we will probably at some point have an energy advantage there, if that does happen. But here my opponent brings in an Abomasnow into the Golurk, and they end up calling that I'm baiting with the Shadow Punch instead of the Dynamic Punch, and that's absolutely crazy. But fortunately for us, not only are we able to still take it out and get switch, but the Shadow Mahcamp takes a massive Mud Slap damage and can't get the farm down before we get to another Shadow Punch, forcing a shield from them. So now I can just come in with my Gastrodon, tank all this energy on it, and they have a Shadow Driftbloom in back, and now this game is over. They could bait us with a Mystical Fire and Icy Wind. It doesn't matter because they won't be able to reach another Shadow Ball if that's the case. So my opponent does make the right call in this situation and full setting the Shadow Ball. But since we do shield, we are going to be able to outpace to that second Icicle Spear, and my opponent at that point realizes it, so they concede. Jeez. Next battle, Shadow Walrein into Lokix. This is a neutral matchup for the Walrus, as it does win the ones here. So that's what we're going to play to. Fire off this Icicle Spear before they reach a potential Trailblaze. Does get a shield from my opponent, so we're happy to give a shield back in return, which is the Trailblaze. Now they're boosting up the damage of their Sucker Punches. We're going to fire off this next Icicle Spear right away, of which my opponent will give up their final shield in, and now we're going to pivot into our Gastrodon. We don't want to pivot into our Golurk here, just because those boosted Sucker Punches would shred through the Golurk. So we do pivot in our Gastrodon, which tempts them to stay in because, again, they do have access to that Trailblaze, forces our final shield, and now we do get to the Body Slam to take out their Lokix, but they make a very nice catch of the Body Slam onto their Jellicent, and now we're in a very tough situation. They are able to land the Shadow Ball, but the Gastrodon can hang on, make it to an Earth Power, and this gives us a little bit of hope now because we're able to land that Earth Power. If I can get the Mud Slap down here with the Golurk, then I'd say I'm in a pretty decent spot. But we can't. The Jellicent survives on 1 HP, so we swap into our Walrein to catch the Surf, and then in the back, my opponent has a Toxapex. So it would have been tough anyways, but getting that entire Mud Slap down, we would have been able to reach 2 Shadow Punches plus the Mud Slap damage before they reach that Brine, as well as a little bit of HP our Walrein had on it. It would have been a close matchup, but us not getting that Mud Slap down gives us the loss there. GG's. Next battle, Ferrothorn Lead. Powder Snows into Bullet Seeds. 2-turn versus 3-turn, firing off the Icicle Spear after 7 Powder Snows. Does land onto their Ferrothorn, and we're going to give up a shield here. We want to play this matchup out in the 1 shield scenario. So 1 more Powder Snow and then the Icicle Spear. My opponent at this point is now 1 Bullet Seed off their next Power Whip, which they overfarm here. Very nice overfarm before my next Icicle Spear. I let it go because I know that I can get a very nice Mud Slap down, and my opponent looks like they blind pivot into a Clodsire. So I make a little bit of an interesting play. I bank all that energy on the Shadow Golurk. I didn't want to waste all that energy I have on it for my Gastrodon and then to be potentially stuck against that Ferrothorn taking the double super effective Bullet Seeds in order to get that Mud Slap down. So I swap, I completely sack the Gastrodon and just bank on the fact that all of this energy the Golurk has is going to win us the game here. So Shadow Punch does take out the Ferrothorn, and they have their own Golurk in the back. So we make the right call. We get to the back-to-back Shadow Punches. First one gets to the shield, and the second one will KO the Shadow Golurk. As a matter of fact, Shadow on Shadow with the Golurks, the Shadow Punch completely one-shots it from full HP. So that is definitely enough damage to take theirs out. GG's. Next battle. Shadow Walrein into Malamar. So we know how to play this out here. We overfarm, wait until our opponent throws a superpower, and then we'll throw our Icicle Spear. But my opponent throws a superpower, they dip into Dunsparce, and we have a fantastic answer for this Dunsparce in the Golurk. They will land 1 Drill Run, and now I'm going to load up on energy, play to the CMP tie to their next move. My opponent goes for the extra. Nice recognition from them, knowing that I'm going to play to the CMP tie. We go for the Dynamic Punch, hoping it goes through, but they shield it. And now here, you know what? I'm actually fine letting this go because I know I can get a massive Mud Slap down with my Gastrodon here. I will take a Drill Run in the process, but I'm not worried about that. Drill Run from Dunsparce is not too threatening, and we'd be able to get a full Mud Slap down. So my opponent realizes that and pivots back into their Malamar, of which I can fire off this Earth Power, gets their shield, and now I can bring in Walrein combo play with this Icicle Spear. This won't be quite enough to KO, but it looks like that I'll be able to get the Powder Snow down before they reach another superpower, especially since they superpowered here, lowering their defense. Down goes Malamar. We get a very nice Powder Snow down. They come in with the Dunsparce. I get to the back-to-back. Don't want to take any more rollout damage, just in case the HP is going to be crucial for me reaching an Earthquake in the end game, of which it's a Clodsire. So we're just going to be spamming off these Icicle Spears, and that should be a good game. First one will land, and second one will land, which looks like it should just about be enough to take out their Clodsire, which it is, as it goes down and Walrein cleans it up. GG's. Like I said in the beginning of the video, double Mud Slap is a very strong team composition for the season, where if you're not going to run it, you should be prepared to face it at the very least. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.